Today we have a really awesome video, and that's the CENTS framework. And this is going to teach you how to evaluate businesses for wealth creation. So if you're trying to build wealth and you're trying to figure out what business is the right one for you and which one will give you the best opportunity, you can use this framework to analyze businesses and really dive into the metrics of it and see if this is right for you or if you should skip on it completely. I wish I knew this when I started because I wasted a lot of my time on businesses that did not meet this criteria. So I hope this helps. Let's dive right into it. Hey there, welcome back to the channel. My name is Chris Lynch. I'm an entrepreneur, and in this video, we're gonna dive into a valuable framework that you can use, and this powerful framework will help you evaluate businesses, business ventures, and see if it's a right fit for you and if it makes sense. So what exactly is the CENTS framework? Well, if you never heard of the Millionaire Fastlane or MJ DeMarco, then you're missing out, because the Millionaire Fastlane is probably one of the best business books I've ever read. And if you can't tell by the bookshelf behind me and the bookshelves throughout my house, I read a lot of business books trying to uncover what works and what doesn't work. So MJ DeMarco has some really eye-opening content, and this CENTS framework is basically a 5-step metric that you can go through and evaluate each business on so you can see if it's the right business for you and if it's a business that actually has the metrics to be able to help you build wealth. So what does CENTS stand for? So CENTS is pretty much an acronym. It stands for Control, Entry, Need, Time, Scale. Now you might be wondering, what the heck, what does any of that mean? If you're new to business or you're just starting out, then you might be trying to figure out why does this impact me? How can this impact my wealth building? And yeah, I get it. But I want to go through each one with you and tell you how it actually impacts the business you build and how successful you're actually going to be able to be with that type of business. Let's start with control. So if you don't know, having control over your business is super important. Now, I want to give you multiple examples of businesses that don't have control. So if you're going to meet the command of control, you need to be able to have complete control over your asset and its ability to make money. A prime example of a business that does not have control is if you start an e-commerce business that is hosted on Amazon and you use FBA, and that's the only sales channel that you use to sell that product. Now, if that's your main source of income and that's the only source of income you have, you are playing in somebody else's sandbox and your business lacks control. Let me explain a little bit further. If you have a business that sells a pet product, or you have a business that sells some kind of automotive product and everything's going well, say you're making, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 in a month in revenue. And then one day you wake up and you get an email from Amazon saying your account has been suspended. Your entire business is shut down until you can get that resolved. And if Amazon decides not to put you back on the platform, your entire revenue stream has died and your business is done. Unless you can figure out how to get this on another channel, like your own channel, like if you own your own website, then you have control. And if you want to use Amazon as just one sales channel, that's fine. Another good example of this is the people that sell products on Etsy. Etsy is a powerful platform. There's a lot of organic traffic there that can help build your business and get you views to your product, and it can be a great way to launch your business if you're in e-commerce. However, there's one important thing to know about Etsy is they can contact you any day and shut down your entire business. So if your business is not on your own website as well with Etsy, then you're taking a huge risk and your business does not have the element of control. Another business that does not have control is if you build an MLM business. Now, if you own the MLM, that's one thing. Those guys get rich. If you take part in an MLM, you can make a lot of money. I know a lot of people that do this with real estate. There's all kinds of things that go on with MLM, and people make money because you can access the scale component of CENTS. However, you don't have control, and if one day the company goes out of business, or the company shuts down, or the company just changes their revenue share or their profit sharing, then you're done. It's very important to build businesses that you have control of and not depend on other people, because that's not any way to get to financial freedom or have stability. You want to have control of your assets and you want to have control over what you're building. Now, if you want to add this into your wealth building activities as one pillar of it, that's totally okay. I know some people that are involved in MLM. They use MLM to get their cash flow, they get their income, and then what they do is they take that cash flow and income and they go buy properties, or they buy commercial investments, or they buy other businesses that they have full control over. And that's okay. But just know, if you don't have control, you're taking huge risk that you don't really need to take. The second element is entry. And this is basically how fast somebody else can steal your lunch. Now, I know this sounds weird, but think about it. There are so many businesses where somebody can just buy a truck or a bucket and become your direct competition. A perfect example of this is if you open up a mobile detailing company. You really need a couple $100s worth of supplies, and then they're your direct competition. What about a cleaning company? That's another business where somebody can just buy a bucket, some cleaning supplies, and then become your direct competition. These kind of businesses are tough because they typically end up being races to the bottom, and a lot of times it's hard to compete because your competition is just going lower and lower and lower on price, and a lot of the people that you're selling to just view it as a commodity because the market is flooded with people trying to compete for the same business. Real estate is kind of like this. The only barrier to entry with real estate, the business that I started, is there's licensing required. However, the barrier to entry is very low because to get a license in most states, you can do it in 40, 50, 60, 70 hours. So the barrier to entry there is not very high, and that's why the business is super saturated. So make sure you start a business that has a barrier to entry. And if you can, make sure you have a business that is hard to infiltrate and has a moat around it. Now, this might be hard to do as your first business if you don't have a lot of capital, but some good examples of this is software as a service or some kind of patent or technology that you own. Now, software as a service is a totally different beast. I haven't even ventured into that avenue yet because it's very difficult. It's probably the hardest business to start and grow, but it can be the most lucrative. Let me give you a prime example. I'm in the real estate space. I have a real estate team. It does well. But if you look at the guys playing in the space of software as a service in the real estate field, you can look at companies like Follow Up Boss. The person that started Follow Up Boss started a software as a service. All the real estate agents use that CRM and they get a monthly recurring revenue, and the company's worth a lot of money. In fact, Zillow just bought Follow Up Boss for $400 million. That's a business that has a moat around it, it's high barrier to entry, has recurring revenue, and it's extremely sellable. So if you can build a business that has those elements in place and has a high barrier to entry. The third element is need. Now, need is a pretty common one. If there's no need for your product or service, then you're probably going to struggle to make that successful. This is kind of common sense, but sometimes people don't view it that way. And just make sure that if you're going to start a business, it has a demand and there's a need for it. The next element is time. Now, a lot of businesses don't have this in place. Now, there's only a couple ways to get this time element. You can start a business that is powered by technology. Think of a software company, think of digital products like information and courses, or think of something that is completely detached from your time, like a rental asset like real estate or something along those lines. A lot of times with real estate, you still need a human component, somebody to manage that, which is basically a human resource system. But in general, you're gonna have technology or you're gonna have a human resource system. Now, if you wanna build a human resource system, they're incredibly hard to manage, they're incredibly hard to maintain, and they're incredibly hard to scale. However, it can be done. There are a lot of companies that are human resource systems that are detached from the owner's time because they have managers and they have a system in place and an infrastructure that allows this to happen. However, if you don't have that in place, it's incredibly difficult to build. And in my opinion, you're probably better off going with the technology element and building a technology business, because technology always works. As long as it's updated, as long as it's maintained, the technology works 24/7. I have a business that basically pays me while I'm sleeping. And that's important because that element is always working. With a human resource system, it's very difficult to keep that rolling and keep people motivated and keep the ball moving in the right direction. So make sure when you're starting a business that you're looking at all these key elements and you're picking the one that makes the most sense, that can detach from your time. Now, you might be saying, hey, I'm all about working on the business, working in the business, and I agree with you. You're gonna have to do that at first. When I started any of my businesses, I was full steam ahead, and I still am. But you wanna build something that has the elements in place to be able to detach from your time. And the reason this is important, because one, you don't want to build yourself a job, right? If we wanted a job, we can go get a job. We want a business. And number two, you want to build something that is sellable, because if you don't build something that's sellable, you're just building a job and you're never going to be able to exit. And the truth is, the majority of millionaires make the money on the exit. Look at the people that came up with softwares like Follow Up Boss. They sold their company for multi millions, and most people that are super wealthy and super rich make their money on the exit, not necessarily from the cash flow of owning the asset. The last component is scale. And this component is extremely important because a lot of people build companies and businesses that are not scalable. Now, this was a harsh lesson that I had to learn because I built a company that isn't very scalable, right? A lot of my businesses that I built in the past were not super scalable. And I have friends that have spent their time building scalable businesses. A good example is I caught up with a friend of mine. He built an e-commerce company over the last 10 years, and that company does a couple $100,000 a month in revenue. Now, this isn't profit, it's revenue, but with that being said, it's an extremely scalable business. His company sells in all 50 states and they're trying to expand into multiple different countries. My business simply does not have the ability to do that unless I hired thousands of agents and built a giant human resource system. So building a business that has scale is very important. You want to have the ability to sell thousands of products in the same amount of time as it takes you to sell one product, essentially. I'll give you a prime example. If 1,000 customers came to me into my business and said, hey, I want to buy 1,000 houses today, it would simply be impossible. However, if I had an information business and I was selling information products, or I had a software business and I was selling software products, what would happen if somebody came to me and said, hey, I need 1,000 of those today? They can just click the button 1,000 times and they get the product because it's already built, and it takes the same time to sell 1,000 as it takes to sell one. So you're basically selling code, right? Now, this is like the biggest mind-blowing thing that you can ever come up with. And somewhere in the middle of that is like a product business, like a physical product business. Think of people that make like dog products or pet products or car products, like, you know, things that actually ship in the mail that are physical goods. Those are good. However, you always have to restock on inventory, and they're cash flow intensive businesses. They can be super scalable, but you have to have a lot of capital to stock the inventory and make sure that your product is always there. So when people order it, it gets shipped out on time and there's no delays, because if not, you're gonna have a real bad time with that business. So make sure you have capital if you wanna start that kind of business, some kind of physical product business. So all in all, I hope this really helped you out. This stuff right here is mind-blowing, and you know, this is the stuff that I wish I knew at 22, and I want to share that with everybody, because again, some people are just starting out and they haven't gone through all this, and if I can share some of my wisdom that I've learned throughout the years to save you some time and get you to your goals quicker, that's exactly what I want to do. If you like this kind of content, smash the like button and subscribe. Thanks so much for tuning in.